I'm Alan Watts, and I've been following politics and geopolitics for a good part of my life. I didn't start off deliberately going out to find out everything that was possibly going on. In fact, I had no idea, to be honest with you, how vast the scale of an agenda, a political agenda, is when you're bringing in a global society. Wars have many different purposes. Economics is only simply one big part of it, but cultural change and the building of empire through the defeated nations joining in leagues. Every country was basically signing the same laws, and had been my whole life, at the same time that affected their societies. Laws were introduced and bills were introduced unbeknownst to the people in those countries that it was being introduced in their neighboring countries or even across the water somewhere at the same time. I realized there was already a governmental control, obviously, that coordinated all of this, and it led me into the United Nations. For every single department of government you have on a federal, local, county, state, provincial level, the United Nations had an equivalent department to deal with everything. It was already set up, in fact, to be global government. H.G. Wells said at the League of Nations, which was the embryo for the United Nations, he said, this is the nucleus of the world governments, when eventually all laws will come from there, be passed and signed into law by treaty of all the member countries. Eventually, we won't even have to go through the farce, and that's what it is, of voting in parties or candidates, because in the latter part of the 20th century and now into the 21st century, we're being trained, rather obviously, to simply accept rule by experts, rule by scientists, rule by professionals, and that's what they mean when they call governance. That's the term used. How do you get a domesticated herd to move from a field, a system in which it's been grazing for 20, 50 years, this kind of system, to this field over here, this new field? Because we have reluctance to change. We like familiarity, we like routine, you see. You do it by various techniques, one of which is revolution. Most revolutions are bloodless. You have cultural revolutions, sexual revolutions. Along with that comes the music revolutions, etc. These literally are designed to alter and direct culture, knowing what kind of culture they'll have at the very end of it too. They know exactly what kind of culture they want to come out of it. You also can do it through crisis creation. Crisis after crisis has been hit on the people of the world since 9/11 happened. And we must understand that the techniques that are used abroad are also used at home in warfare. And we heard the term shock and awe. Shock and awe on the hard force level, as they call it, is bombs, all kinds of acoustic equipment to nullify enemies, scare the hell out of them through voice to skull and so on, which was used in Gulf War I, and it's all over the British media. But you can also use shock and awe on your domestic people again. You do it by crisis after crisis until the public are so terrified. See, the average person has a sort of confidence that they build up where they think, I can manage most things that come my way. Whatever little crisis in my life, what happens to other people, I can deal with. When all those around you are getting scared at the same time as you because they're losing their jobs, they've been threatened with pandemics, terrorists everywhere, terrifying people to even get on subways, and so on. And all those around you, as I say, are also in the same boats. You tend to be more easily directed by the powers that be that come out and speak with authority and confidence over you. If you look at how politics is run, and you go into the writings of people like Lenin, for instance, Lenin said there are 1,000 directions and systems in which people could go and live under. But the public mustn't know that. He said it's important that the system that's created for them is accepted by the people, so that they think that's the only system that could possibly work. And it's true, we're contained in a system of left and rights, supposedly the have-nots against the haves, or those who own the means of production against those who don't, the workers. And that's traditional Labour versus Tory, or Conservative versus Democrat. That's how the system is run. It keeps the public contained within a system of thinking that it must be one or the other, or a middle road in between, which they push. It never occurs to the general public that society has lived in the past under many different types of systems, and as Lenin said, it's important that the public don't know that the system they're born into was designed for them, and that it could be any different. They must think it's the only natural one that could have evolved in their lifetime. Therefore, you're contained within a restriction of parties. You vote in one party when you're sick of the last one, not because you want the new one in. It's because you're sick of the last one and what they've done to you. And once they've been corrupted and gone off in different tangents in ways where they never explained during the entire elections, had nothing to do with their election promises, you vote them out and get the next party in. And so we go on forever with this left-right paradigm. Always think it's like a tennis match, really, with the public in the middle. We're the ball, and we just simply go back and forth between left and right, left and right, left and right. Meanwhile, we're being shepherded all along in one direction, because politics is a tool of the elites to manage the public. That's all democracy, in fact, really is, a tool of the elite to contain the public, manage them, and guide them along a predetermined path that's outside of any kind of democracy. But if you take Bush, what he was sent in to do was to wait, and I believe this truly, he was to wait for 9/11 happening in 2001. 2001 happened, every country automatically went on board with the same agenda at the same time, which shows pre-planning. Bureaucracies in different governments do not work that fast. It takes years to get that kind of cooperation, that kind of synchronicity working together, and synchronization. Bush's job was to bring in a totalitarian system under the guise of protecting the public, where you lose your rights, and set up the machinery, the agencies to do it, the military forces, the paramilitary forces now that the police have become, to set up the institutions for enforcement of laws. Obama comes in, takes over the institutions that are now set up, and his job is to guide you through the economic depression and use those forces against the public at the required time. That's how it works. There's a continuity as far as I'm concerned. It's not a separate regime whatsoever. The same boys who put Bush in, the bankers and all the rest of it, put Obama in, and Obama's proved his loyalty to them by literally allowing them to rape the public of all their funds, and then rewarding them by public funding and tax money to save the same bankers. He's one of their own boys, but he now has the machinery in place that Bush set up to quell the coming riots that they say are going to come, and to manage the public into a brand new system of what they call not government but governance, international governance. If you listen to Obama's speeches before he was elected and analyze what he actually said, he said very little. He was giving emotive speeches with no substance. He never said what he wanted to do or how he was going to do anything. It was almost like a lead up to a movie that hadn't been made yet. Emotional talk of hope, but not saying how the hope would be transformed into realities. He used the term that's been used in academia for the last few decades in the Ivy League schools and universities of the century of change. So his slogan became, and they use slogans written for him, change is good. Any idiot should ask the simple question, wait a minute, what change are you talking about? How can you be for change if you don't know what the change is going to be? It could be for your detriment. But they got the people parroting, like George Orwell said with the sheep, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. Change is good, and the people, his followers, start to repeat it, change is good. What kind of change are we talking about? The loss of sovereignty, the blending into an international institution, a world government system, a system where not only is America bankrupt and the most indebted nation on the planet for loaning money out to other countries and policing the world, being the policeman of the world, now Obama wants to lead the charge on sustainability, carbon taxes, by making America the example for the rest of the world to follow. He's asking everybody to sacrifice everything they have. That's what he means by change is good. He didn't dream up this plan. He is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Again, that comes from the Milner Group, the Cecil Rhodes Society, the Royal Institute for International Affairs, that planned world governments using Britain based as a model for the British Empire, now become the American Empire in a sense. And the changes here he's talking about is a new world of servitude, where you will serve the world state. And you'll also have to pay off all your debts along the way. Which is impossible as far as I'm concerned. You cannot ever pay the kind of debt America has incurred since World War II. It's impossible to pay back. Therefore, the changes he's talking about really is a New Deal. When you hear a New Deal mentioned by any president, and we got that from FDR, we got it from Bush, last Bush it was in, a New Deal. We're getting it from this administration. That's a legal admission from the leader of your country of a new system. A New Deal is literally a new system. The first system was the Constitution. You got an updated system with FDR as government became incredibly big and centralized, and now you've got a New Deal under the guise that change is good. Who planned the change? It wasn't the people who planned the change. Who will benefit will not be the people. It's the world of sustainability, Mr. Rockefeller, the population reduction plan. Those who will go into the future will be those who are necessary for the future's maintenance, and those who are simply obsolete, the useless eaters, will have to perish and die off. It's as simple as that. This generation today, the ones who are alive today, we are the generation that's going through the biggest changes in history, according to even Rockefeller himself, since the Industrial Revolution. It's the end of one phase of a long-term plan. And out of this comes a new world order. As they've said, Mr. Brown said, the Prime Minister of Great Britain said at the G20 meeting recently, it's a new world order. A different order from the previous one, where people technically were working for themselves, would choose their own employment and so on. The new world order is a planned system, a planned economy, a planned population. So it's up to us. It's not up to the next generation to change this. We're the only ones who can possibly do the changing. And it's either really the rights to go into an uncertain future, which is what life should really be, where we decide for ourselves where we want to go individually and collectively, or allow ourselves to be dumb animals, creatures who are guided by those who have decided they are the masters of our destiny, and allow ourselves gradually to be sterilized, killed off, used for the last part of their agenda and their wars, and then cast off. Many people will love socialism. They enjoy being guided, and they enjoy their bosses running the world for them. But it's up to those who like freedom, personal freedom, which also entails uncertainty of where we're actually going to go.
These video interviews have all been exclusive, and they're going to be archived at prisonplanet.tv. Please download them, burn them to disk, and give them to everyone you know. Upload them to YouTube. This information is vital not just to our free republic, but to the future of free humanity.